Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me.
Hi there. So I have to say, I'm at the point that I really just don't understand it. How on earth do they still have people listening to Samantha tell the same ridiculous story and they still believe her? I mean, is that what it is? Are there people out there that still believe it? Or is that just their PR and they put the continuing interviews up because they want people to think there are still people that believe them? I'm not sure which it is, but we have the second half, I guess, of the interview between Angela Levin and Samantha Markle. And at this point, it just gets more bizarre. So let's get into this. Anyway, I had a new crown put in today, and after 3 weeks of not having a tooth there, it's kind of making me lisp a little bit, and I do apologize for that. Hopefully it's not too bothersome. Although I will say it is bothering me a great deal, but hopefully it won't bother you.
Growing fury that Meghan Markle continues to use her royal title, which is in direct contravention to the Sandringham Summit Agreement. And remember, that was a deal that Prince Harry signed off with the late Queen Elizabeth II.
Again, using the HRH, this has opened up a huge can of worms. Because here's my issue with it. Where has the palace ever confirmed any of the things that we consider a part of the Sandringham Agreement? Because we don't know. All we have is a list that Harry claims he agreed to, and we have 2 statements from the Queen, one of which being a very vague statement that basically says, they're stepping back from their royal duties, and then the other one that says, yes, they won't use their HRH, but other than that, we love them, blah, 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 and they're paying back for Frogmore. Now that's really all that the palace has confirmed concerning this so-called Sandringham Agreement. Nothing about half in, half out, nothing about what they are and are not allowed to do in terms of merchandising, nothing about their charity. Everything is really geared on this one single premise, which is that this was an agreement between the royal family and Harry and Meghan. But there's 2 problems, right? Number 1, we can't trust anything that Harry said. So even if we were to believe the palace involvement in this Sandringham Summit and agreement, we have no idea what was said because we can't trust what Harry said. But the other issue that I have with it is that by the palace neither confirming or denying it, you can say, if you want to be generous, that it leaves them open to any claim that Harry and Meghan want to make. They can then turn around and say that the palace is going against this Sandringham Agreement. If you are going to be less generous, it means that the palace wants it flexible so that they can react however they want and they can't be held accountable to it. So when Dan says that it goes in a direct violation to what Harry signed off on, we don't know that he signed off on anything. We don't know that he was asked to sign off on anything. And the other issue is that he said she agreed not to use her title. Well, no. She didn't make any agreement on the title. She agreed not to use her HRH. Or the Queen said they would not be using their HRH. Never said they never could again. Never said anything about their titles. What they said about their titles, we only have through Harry and Meghan. I mean, for all we know, the Queen said, that's it, you're done. Your titles are gone. Give them up. Or else. And for all we know, the palace has been waiting for them to do it ever since. But we don't know. We only know, in fact, from Harry that they were ever entitled to continue to use it at all. I mean, unless we get some definitive answer, which I don't believe we ever will, from the palace that the Sandringham Agreement actually exists, then we really need to just kind of let it go as a myth, because they don't have to hold. Neither side has to hold to it if the terms are so secret that none of us know about them. And we're sitting here saying, no, 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 the Sandringham Summit said. Well, this isn't like a public, treaty signed between two warring nations. This is something that it's a myth. So for Dan to then come out here and say, the Sandringham Agreement said this, well, it's especially weird because, it's not like he's on Harry's side and, he's going on what Harry has supposedly said about the Sandringham Agreement. Because, like I said, Pals really hasn't said anything. See the issue here? So I just wanted to put that out there because, again, as always, Samantha is going to, tell us all about, the legalities of the Sandringham Summit. And before we even get into that farce, it's worth noting that, she gets this concept from Dan and from Lady C and whatnot. And it's really pretty ludicrous.
So he is now betraying the memory of his late grandmother, not just the current royal family. This egregious decision was exposed during Meghan's interview with Jamie Kern-Lima, where you could see a gift basket that Meghan had sent, which said, there you see it, with compliments, HRH, Duchess of Sussex, using her Royal Highness title. Proof. And the fact is, people who say, well, that's not for commercial gain. I'm sorry, you think Jamie Kern-Lima has included that in this podcast without Meghan's explicit permission? This is her best friend.
If you ask me, when Dan says this nonsense about Jamie being Meghan's best friend, he sounds like a 12-year-old girl. He really does. I mean, these are grown women. They still have besties. I mean, there's no need for that. And the fact that Dan even says it, it shows the shallowness of who he is. But the other issue is Meghan has no friends. She has people with whom she has a transactional relationship. And so to put a friendship to Jamie Kern-Lima, it's disingenuous of Dan to do that because he knows damn well she doesn't have friends. Is Meghan pretending that Jamie is her friend? Yes, of course she is. She's also pretending she has kids. But you can't sit there and say, well, if it's her best friend saying it, it ought to mean something. No, it doesn't mean anything because we know that they aren't actually friends. It's a transactional relationship.
I mean, Sam Markle, you can understand from my point of view, I think this is why the Sandringham Summit Agreement, even though the late Queen Elizabeth II tried so hard, why it was never strong enough. They should be stripped of their titles, shouldn't they? Because they now make a mockery of the royal family, and I'm done with it. I mean, I've been done with it for a long time, but come on, Charles, just get rid of the titles. Enough is enough. Do you agree, Sam?
Yeah, and here's the problem. I don't think a lot of people are aware of this. It's not just making a mockery of the royal family. They're making a mockery of the United States Constitution.
Correct.
That prohibits the use of royal titles, especially in American politics. And Harry and Meghan, can't be ignorant to this fact. They've used the titles against congressional advisement on continuum, preceding public, even political speeches. So they simply can't do it. It creates a false sense of elevated status and reliance that the public have, and it gives them a false sense of credibility that has political influence and influences voters. So with that said, we've heard about Act Blue, we've heard about USAID, we've heard about a lot of this using that royal title, and it simply has to stop.
be 100% honest, I don't think I can do it again. I don't think I can explain again why Samantha is wrong about her representation of the Constitution, because I've just said it so much. I can't. I can't do it again. But here's a different question for you. What did any of what Dan said have to do with any of what Samantha said? I mean, she's going on about, the titles and political and politics and USAID and talking about things that Samantha knows nothing about. But it also had nothing to do with the question that Dan asked, which was, should Charles remove the titles? The fact that he's even asking her about this subject, you know damn well she wanted to be asked about this subject. God, that smug little look on her face. She wants to be seen as an expert on this, and yet she so clearly isn't that to me, it's almost like he's trolling her by, giving her these opportunities to just make herself look foolish. It's why ask the American about the titles when he asked Angela Levin, what do you think? It makes no sense.
And as far as giving someone little desserts and writing special little notes to elevate their day, like she did for Jamie when she was, quote, down or whatever she was going through. What about dad through 2 heart attacks and a stroke? Could you write him a nice little letter? Could you send him a little something, send him a little dessert to make him feel better? I mean, it's such PR, and it's so cringeworthy, in my opinion.
It is, but it's now doing damage. The problem is, Sam, your sister is now doing damage to the British royal family. That's why I think action should be taken. But look,
that's just absolutely ridiculous. Now she's doing damage? What? She wasn't doing damage last week? Or even the last time you two talked and you said she's damaging the image of the royal family? I mean, seriously. What I really want to know watching these, because I don't know how many more of them I can take, I really want to know, is there someone watching this that believes it? Or that thinks that this is even anything that Samantha Markle should be responding to? If Dan's purpose here is just because he knows that Samantha will be nasty about everything she says about Meghan, and that's what he wants someone to be nasty about the titles because he's all fired up about them, then fine. But at least say that then. Don't pretend that turning to this American, this woman who really has no say and no knowledge of the topic, why are we asking her?
Also been desperate to speak to you both about this other stunt. I mean, it's stunt after stunt at the moment, and we know why this is, by the way. Let me just be honest with you. It's because Meghan knows Confessions of a Female Founder is a massive flop, so she's trying to fill the space with everything else possible so that people are not talking about the fact that her podcast has fallen out of the top 100. It's mortifying. But so what we got was Lili's voice. And there's been a lot of people, including Angela, raising questions about this very odd-sounding voice. Now, when I was watching the Jamie Kern-Lima interview, was struck by Meghan's use of a word. Watch this.
I love when things look beautiful. And even when you don't have a lot, you're able to make things look
beautiful. She's always talking about beautiful in a particular way. And guess who else on Sunday was saying beautiful?
What do we think, Lily?
I think it's beautiful.
Samantha, can I just ask you, because obviously that's Andrew and I talking about it from a perspective of the royal family. But can I ask you, Samantha, how this impacts you as a Markle, hearing your niece's voice for the first time in a story on Instagram? Is it upsetting for you? Is it disturbing for you? And also,
No, I
how
mean
does your dad feel
mm-mm.
about it?
It's not upsetting on the grounds, and I don't believe that that's her voice, on the grounds that every photograph we've seen of the alleged children, their hair color changes, their height and body type changes, their face changes. So this is just, some random voice. All we saw was some little hand that seems so small, it didn't seem like it belonged to a 3-year-old. So much was inconsistent about this that, I just think it's a kind of a turn off. I'm not buying it.
Now, as a mom, if I were going to start discussing a kid and developmentally and words that they say and the size of their hands, I would say, yeah, when my kids were that age, they wouldn't have said beautiful. Or when my kids were that age, I mean, their hands weren't that big. Notice Samantha doesn't say that. And it makes me wonder, has Samantha actually had children? I mean, I know she didn't raise them, but the story is that she had 3. Did she? I mean, I don't tend to believe anything anymore. It's gotten to the point that the most obvious things about their story have been proven to be lies. Then how do we not question every aspect of the story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your dad? Does he get upset that this is
I
the
mean,
only access he has to his grandchildren?
no, I think he feels the same thing. And he has stated that the hair color on these children keeps changing. Where, there's one picture where this alleged Lilibet has sort of a sandy blonde hair from a distance. And then she's got bright, stark red curly hair. We don't know if, the Sussex Squad and PR have photoshopped some of it. But the bottom line for me is that there is no consistent reference, no real point of reference for the faces of these alleged children. We have no idea what they look like, if they have Markle genetics, we don't know what they look like from a distance, from the back,
Yeah.
from the
What
side, or
about the
just it.
voice? The voice. Did you sense Markle at all in the voice?
What I love about this is you can see there the look on Angela Levin's face. Even she thinks this is an absolutely ludicrous question. Do you sense Markle in the voice? I mean, wow. Of a 3-year-old? Barely speaking in clear words, you can sense their genetics? I mean, how do you quote unquote sense the Markle in someone's voice? Well, it would be through things like accent. It would be through things like speech patterns. And considering the limited interaction they have had with either of the people that presumably are these kids' primary caregivers, I mean, you hear about people who were raised by nannies and they sound like the nanny rather than their parents. So they could very well be Markle children and not be a bit of Markle in their voice. I mean, it's ludicrous. Is it that Dan is desperate to have something to put on his show? Or is it that Samantha is desperate for the attention? I don't know which it is. But either way, this entire panel, it's cringeworthy. I'm embarrassed that Dan put this out.
No, no. I haven't sensed Markle at all from the beginning of this. And again, I think any family, when you're looking at genealogy and you're looking at photographs and you're thinking, oh, well, she's got his nose or her nose, and oh my God, there's grandpa's nose. We haven't seen any photographs to use as identifying point of references for family genetic traits. So we're left thinking, okay, are these stand-ins? Do they not want the real children seen? What's the deal? But we cannot say that these are Markle children. It would be so foolhardy and ignorant to say that with no visual point of reference.
But by all means, despite that, talk about it anyway. I mean, I really just have to wonder who it is that is so desperate to have her on this show right now that they're resorting to the conversation of whether or not a 3-year-old voice sounds like a Markle.
Andrew, another question that has finally been asked in the mainstream media, and we see this on the front page of the Daily Mail today, with the former Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries writing, Meghan's businesses are struggling, so is it any wonder she's now trying to use her children to rescue her brand? And here's why Harry won't be talking about it. Now, Angela, again, I know this is nothing new for us. We've been speaking about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. Meghan is commercializing her kids. She's pimping out her children. You're Prince Harry's biographer. We both know there's no way he's happy about it. No way. He talks about social media being like a death zone for children, yet here are his children all the time being put up on social media by Meghan. But what did you make of the fact that this has now gone mainstream with this column from Nadine Dorries on the front page of the Daily Mail, the former Culture Secretary of the United Kingdom?
The problem that I have here, and as I've said in the past, I'm not going to take issue with anything that Angela Levin says in this interview. I think she's in a difficult position. So I just want to talk about what Dan said. Even the question that he is asking, the problem is none of these people have any idea what Harry is thinking or what Harry is willing to do or how desperate Harry may or may not be. But even more important to me is that they are looking at it in such a surface level, as is the media, that they're not going to find any answers. I mean, they're looking at it as though Meghan is just putting the kids out there to make a buck. Well, yeah, that's part of it. But they're also looking at it as Harry is out there, keeping kids off social media because he thinks it's dangerous. No, he doesn't. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's dangerous for kids. He is saying all that nonsense to get his IPP status back and to limit free speech. So if you're not going to look at it in the proper context, you're never going to get the right answer because you're asking the wrong questions.
Children to help you get on like that. Absolutely.
Sam, you wanted to come in?
Angela, on that note, though, if the consideration is protecting children, whether it's, from Harry's perspective or Meghan's, what about these reports of her promoting and showing the Wales children and a clothing line that Princess Catherine liked? In other words, she seemingly had no problem putting them on her Instagram page. And they are children after all. And I wonder if she had consent to do that. It just seemed like, well, I'm not going to put my own children out there, but I'll put the Wales children out there. It seemed very weird, hurtful, and I had questions about the consent.
Nah, did I miss something here? Because it's my understanding that Meghan did not post pictures of George or Charlotte, or if she did, I must have missed those. But what she did was she posted a link about a brand of clothing that Charlotte and George have worn in the past. She doesn't need to get permission to do that. I mean, should she? Well, of course she should. There's a lot of things that Meghan should do that she doesn't do. But there's no legal ramifications if she doesn't. She doesn't have to get, the parents of Prince George and Princess Charlotte's permission to post clothes that they have worn. I mean, So I'm not really sure if Samantha should be speaking to things that she doesn't know about. I mean, just stick with the stuff that you do know about. I don't understand it. I don't understand this need to just spew out stuff that isn't factually correct, and just doing it just for the sake of what? No one fact checking her?
Where I think Meghan has been totally disingenuous about the situation that happened between herself and Gwyneth Paltrow. So to set this up, you'll remember Gwyneth Paltrow gave an interview to Vanity Fair where she was very obviously criticizing Meghan Markle, embarrassed about Meghan Markle, said she didn't really know her, made a dig about the fact that she could go and see her at her house, but she probably couldn't because there's a whole load of security there. Da Montecito neighbours, of course. Now, Gwyneth, rather than being like Martha Stewart and just being brave and thinking, I don't care that the media is saying that I've gone to war with Meghan Markle because this is truly how I think, Gwyneth decided to stunt something up for Instagram with Meghan. Now, in the interview with her BFF, Meghan acts as if this whole situation had just passed her by and it was just Gwyneth texting her when she happened to realize that everyone was talking about it. Watch.
Love so much what you and Gwyneth Paltrow did recently.
Oh, how funny.
Because out there, they love to pit women against each other or
Yeah.
compete or this or that. And, you know, we've all seen it. We've all had experience of like that in our own life. And I know that you don't really see almost any of the press, but this thing had been going on.
Well, I
saying,
didn't
like,
see it. She texted me.
Oh, did she?
My gosh, she's like, yeah. She texted me and she said, oh my gosh, like I did this interview and I can't remember verbatim what she said, but she's like, I give up. I don't even know what to say anymore. And I said, well, I didn't hear about it. Hadn't heard about it at all. And then, because not because people are hiding things from me, but maybe because it's not something that anyone felt needed to be on my radar.
Yeah.
And I just texted her back. I was like, I hear there's something about like pie. And then we ended up, she was doing something on Instagram. So I ordered some pie on Instacart. We sat there and just ate some pie and laughed and caught up a little bit. And then I came back home.
I was so happy.
Samantha Markle, when it comes to the Gwyneth video, I mean, it was so obvious. Like, that was the mainstream media take on it. Gwyn mocks Meg. You only had to watch it. And so I'm actually pretty disappointed with Gwyneth Paltrow. But I guess the heat got too hot and she decided to get out of the kitchen rather than actually being like Martha Stewart, who stood firm and has made it very clear that Meghan ripped off the one pot pasta recipe and she said it's the original and the best. And when she's been asked about the show, she just said, I haven't seen it. I didn't know
Has
it's
it been on yet?
Yeah.
Well,
Has
yeah.
it been on yet? I thought was very clever.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if you both thought about it or noticed, but what I thought was kind of strange was this need to seemingly align with Gwyneth Paltrow. In other words, she's not been photographed without makeup, but all of a sudden, since Gwyneth Paltrow is clearly a natural beauty, au naturel, not a stitch of makeup on, and all of a sudden, Meghan has to appear without makeup on.
Yeah.
So it felt like that was kind of cheesy and staged to say, hey, I'm real. I'm a real woman. I don't have to do the proving game anymore. I just am what I am. And there was a clip that I don't know if you both saw, or part of it rather, when she was crying and she was talking about the proving game and shaking her head and saying, I'm a good mom. I'm a good friend. I'm a good person, as she is shaking her head no. So I was looking at the body language and going,
interesting.
wait
Yes,
a
we
minute,
did
there's a
play that.
contradiction happening here.
So is that an avenue that Samantha wants to open up now? Now do we get to analyze her body language? Because, I mean, really, the phrase, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, is really just flipping through my head. Of all the people that are safe to say that, I would say Samantha would be the least safe to suggest that someone's body language doesn't correspond to the words that they're saying.
On yesterday's show. And
Well spotted.
yeah, very well spotted. And Sam, I did want to ask you about that because she says, yeah, she's done proving herself to people. The prove it game, she said, is over because she knows she's a good friend. But what she never said, and I think it was quite telling, she never said, I know I'm a good daughter. I know I'm a good sister. She didn't say that.
Daughter-in-law,
did she?
even.
Right. And I think this is a huge decoy. It's a red herring from all of the bullying, from the treatment of our family, from the treatment of the royal family. It's like, we didn't just hear about this, we watched you do this. So you can sit there and say, as you shake your head, no, I'm a good person. We get the contradiction. And no, there is no proving game. You can't prove it. We already know. So
Yeah.
Who exactly would be qualifying Samantha as a good daughter, who is keeping this going in the media despite the damage that it does to her father? And where is anyone saying that Samantha is a good sister? Where is she proving that by taking her side of this and her activities out of the public? I mean, it's just such a contradiction. It's honestly hard to see someone so clearly with the whole do as I say, not as I do mentality, and to put it out there so shamelessly and remorselessly.
It's what
Game
she said. We
over.
spend so much of our life trying to prove something, to prove that you're enough, to prove that you're pretty enough, to prove that you're smart enough, to prove that you're a good wife or a good friend. And I was like, I am just so done with the prove it game. But Sam Markle, at least she didn't say she was a good daughter or a good sister, because we know she's not. But even when she said a good friend, I thought, hang on a moment. You literally threw Jessica Mulrooney, your best friend, under the bus because she was caught up in a bit of a scandal around the time of the Black Lives Matter movement. She was your best friend, never to be heard of again. I find it absolutely extraordinary that she can claim to be a good friend.
And Nanaki Pretty, her best friend forever since kindergarten. Where's Nanaki? Like, where are these real BFFs? Not the Insta Jiffy Pop BFFs for a seeming PR moment. Her makeup artist, all of these people that she can pull out quickly, who really don't know about her life, who really don't know her motives, who weren't privy to a lot of this bullying, even though they must know about it unless they just crawled out from under a rock. But she's pulling these Jiffy Pop friends, and we don't buy it. These are not BFFs. These are, friends with benefits. These are yes men, yes women. And that's my opinion, but that's the way it seems. It's too quick.
Yeah,
You don't
well, it's a
form
fact, isn't
best
it?
friendship
Jamie
that-
Kern Lima just happens to be
Yeah.
a billionaire. Just happens to be a woman who sold It Cosmetics for $1 billion. And let's see, she has a lot of advice that she could give Meghan, couldn't she, on a whole load of issues. Was very interesting, by the way, and we will get into it properly later in the week. But was very interesting to note that Jamie Kern Lima is one of the women who has openly used a surrogate. So she knows a lot about that experience too.
To be quite honest, I probably would have preferred to have kind of cut this review about halfway through and probably wouldn't have even ever posted it. But I wanted to post it for a specific reason. Do you notice that that entire thing was really nothing more than a catty bitch session? I mean, what news were, I mean, even gossip columnist worthy information did either of them share? In the beginning, when they were talking about the titles, I much rather would have listened to Dan and Angela do, a 20-minute talk about that without Samantha, and it would have been perfect. Why is there this necessity to give Samantha credibility by putting her on with Angela? All it does is bring Angela down. It doesn't bring Samantha up. And that's why I wanted you to see it, because it's only when you see the entirety and you realize they really said absolutely nothing that you really kind of get that. So, it is what it is, right? Hopefully Samantha will kind of go away for a little while now. I mean, she really wasn't even bringing anything to the table in this conversation. So, and Dan, needs to really move on and talk about politics, talk about other celebrities, talk about something else, because he's not getting anything new out of his interviews. I mean, I have no problem with him talking about Meghan if the interviews that he's having are interesting and engaging, but he's not. He's just letting the same people come on and really say the same things. So, I look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. Whole thing's very interesting. I do. I really do look forward to hearing your thoughts, because I think that this interview as a group, it really is worth listening to. Only to see how little it's worth listening to. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a great day, filled with love, laughter, and of course, dancing.
Dancing in